Most athletes say they want to be consistent, but their performance tells a different story. It's a roller coaster of a great game, followed by a bad one, then a mediocre one. It's a frustrating cycle that traps 99% of performers. But what about the 1%? The athletes who seem to operate on a different plane, who show up week in and week out, and deliver. They aren't just more talented, they aren't luckier. They have built a system of unbreakable habits that you probably haven't. I've spent years studying the minds and methods of elite performers, and I've cracked the code. In this video, I'm revealing the 8 hidden habits of the world's most consistent athletes. These aren't the things you see on the highlight reels. They're the invisible engines that drive relentless success. Before we dive into the first secret, if you're serious about unlocking your own potential and breaking free from the up and down cycle for good, do me a quick favor and hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. It's a small click, but it's a statement that you're ready to do the real work. All right, let's get into it. First, let's talk about the myth of the off-season. For the average athlete, the off-season is a time to completely switch off. They vanish. For 2 months, they trade their training gear for a spot on the couch. They show up to the first day of preseason out of shape. Their touch is rusty, and their timing is gone. They believe that preseason is the time to get ready. But the truly consistent athlete knows a secret. There is no off-season. There is only a smarter season. They don't just disappear. While everyone else is forgetting what it feels like to compete, they're already working, not killing themselves, not going at 100% every day, but staying sharp. They operate at a steady 80% capacity, maintaining their conditioning, dialing in their skills, and then, for 20% of the time, they push the boundaries. So when preseason starts, they aren't trying to find their rhythm, they are setting the tempo. They don't have an on and off switch for their ambition. Their engine is always running, just at different speeds. They rest with purpose and train with intelligence. This is why they don't need 5 or 6 games to warm up. They hit the ground sprinting because their standard of excellence doesn't depend on the calendar. Their consistency in effort creates their consistency in performance. The second habit is a deep, almost primal addiction to winning. I'm not just talking about the championship game. I'm talking about everything. A game of cards on the team bus becomes a high-stakes showdown. A simple warm-up drill becomes a personal battle. Even a board game night with the family turns into a strategic war. These athletes are wired to compete, relentlessly. Who can finish first? Who can last longer? Who can outthink, out-hustle, and out-will everyone else in the room? To an outsider, it might look exhausting, even a little crazy. But here's the truth. This relentless competitiveness is a training ground. When you program your mind to fight for every small victory, you build a psychology that refuses to surrender in the big moments. It becomes your default setting. So, when the team is down with 10 minutes left on the clock, their mind isn't drifting towards defeat. It's calculating, searching, asking, how do we win this? What can I do right now to change the game? This never say die attitude isn't some motivational poster cliche. It's a muscle they've trained every single day in the countless mini-battles that most people dismiss as meaningless. To them, everything matters. That's how they turn impossible situations into legendary comebacks. Third, consistent athletes dream dangerously. Most athletes set safe, reasonable goals. I want to get better this year. I hope I make the starting lineup. These goals are comfortable. They don't challenge you, and they don't scare you. And that's exactly why they fail to inspire greatness. The most consistent performers I've studied set goals that are so big, they sound almost delusional to other people. They don't just want to play for a top team, they want to become a legend of the club. They don't just want to win a title, they want to build a dynasty. These aren't acts of arrogance, they are acts of strategic vision. They create a North Star, a goal so massive and ambitious that it forces them to reinvent themselves. It demands a higher level of discipline, a deeper commitment to their craft, and a more resilient mindset. You simply cannot achieve an audacious goal by staying the same. The goal forces you to evolve. While others are motivated by small, incremental improvements, these athletes are fueled by a vision that feels a little bit terrifying and even a little embarrassing to say out loud. And that is precisely why it works. A small dream doesn't give you the fuel to get through the brutal, hard days, but chasing a legacy? That will keep you locked in, focused, and hungry for years. The fourth habit is training the unseen muscle, the brain. Everyone is obsessed with getting faster, stronger, and more technically skilled. And yes, that's crucial. But the smartest, most consistent athletes understand that the physical game is controlled by the mental game. They train their brain with the same intensity they train their body. I see incredibly gifted athletes, explosive and powerful, who make the same tactical errors week after week. Why? Because their decision-making is a fraction of a second too slow. They don't anticipate the play. They react to it. They don't see the danger before it materializes. Then you have the other kind of athlete, the one who always seems to be in the right place at the right time, making the right pass, the right tackle, the right choice. It's not luck. It's not a sixth sense. It's trained game intelligence. They don't just learn from experience. They actively simulate it. They spend hours studying film, not just watching highlights, but breaking down patterns, rehearsing scenarios in their mind, and training their brain to process complex game situations faster than their opponents. They turn the chaos of the game into a predictable set of patterns. While others are trying to outrun their opponents, they are outthinking them. That's the real secret to staying one step ahead. Fifth, they live by the 5-second memory rule. Picture this: a star player makes a horrible mistake early in a huge match, a misplaced pass that leads directly to a goal for the opposition. The crowd groans. The cameras zoom in. For most athletes, this is the beginning of a downward spiral. Their head drops, their shoulders slump, and they start playing scared, trying not to make another mistake. Their mind is stuck replaying the error. But the supremely consistent athlete does something different. They give themselves 5 seconds. 5 seconds to feel the frustration, the anger, the disappointment. And then, it's gone. They flush it. They sprint back to position, their focus already on the next play. They operate with a relentless, next play mindset. Whether they just made a brilliant, game-winning move or a terrible error, they process it and move on instantly. No long celebrations, no sulking. They've trained themselves to refuse to live in the past, even a past that happened just moments ago. This isn't just about being mentally tough. It's about being mentally available. When your mind is stuck on the last play, you hesitate in the present. And at the elite level, a moment of hesitation is the difference between success and failure. They perform every single moment as if it's the only one that matters. The sixth habit is a core of unbreakable belief. Let's call it strategic optimism. Most people think of optimism as a soft, feel-good emotion. But for elite performers, it's a weapon. Imagine a tennis player who loses the first 2 sets in a Grand Slam final. The opponent is on fire. The crowd is starting to fade. It would be easy to check out, to accept the inevitable. But the consistent champion doesn't. They walk to their chair, towel off, and you see a subtle shift. Their posture is still confident. Their eyes are still locked in. They believe not in a foolish, hopeful way, but in a deep, strategic way, that there is still a path to victory. This kind of belief is infectious. It stabilizes their own nerves. It sends a message to their opponent that the fight is far from over, and it keeps them engaged and searching for opportunities when others would have already surrendered. This isn't about ignoring failure. It's about having a fundamental trust that if you keep showing up, keep competing, and keep executing your plan, good things will eventually happen. This deep-rooted belief system acts as psychological armor, protecting them from the inevitable setbacks, failures, and brutal moments that elite sports constantly throw their way. It's what allows them to turn a potential collapse into a legendary comeback. Seventh, they are ruthless curators of their inner circle. Most people miss this one. The most consistent athletes aren't just selective about their training methods. They are incredibly selective about the people they allow into their lives. They understand that energy and belief are currencies. A while back, I knew a phenomenal talent whose results never matched their potential. We discovered the problem wasn't in their technique, it was their support system. Whenever they hit a rough patch, their coach would go quiet, offering generic, uninspired feedback. The belief wasn't there. That athlete's own confidence began to erode. Compare that to another athlete whose coach was their biggest champion, especially when things were going wrong. When they were injured or in a slump, that coach's belief got louder, not quieter. They reminded the athlete of their mission, challenged their doubts, and held the flame of belief for them when they couldn't hold it themselves. Here's the hard truth. If you are not 100% all in on their journey, if you show even a flicker of doubt, a consistent performer will cut you loose. Not out of malice, but out of self-preservation. They need their circle to be a source of reinforcement, not doubt. It's not about surrounding yourself with yes men. It's about having people in your corner who see the best version of you, even when you can't, and who hold you accountable to that standard every single day. Finally, the eighth habit. They master the art of tactical boredom. Imagine being a long-distance swimmer, staring at a black line on the bottom of a pool for 4 hours a day. Or a marathon runner on a lonely road, with nothing but the sound of your own breathing for company. It's monotonous. It's repetitive. It is, by all definitions, boring. This is the point where most minds start to wander. Doubt creeps in. Why am I doing this? I'm so tired. Maybe I should just stop. But the champions have learned to embrace this monotony. They see boredom not as a punishment, but as an opportunity, a chance to build unshakable mental endurance and focus. Instead of fighting the repetition, they use it. They zone in on the tiniest details of their technique, their breathing, their rhythm. They turn the boring hours into a form of moving meditation. They understand a fundamental truth that most athletes miss. Consistency is boring. The real work isn't the exciting moments of victory. It's the thousands of hours of doing the same simple, unglamorous things over and over again, with perfect execution. If you don't develop an extremely high tolerance for boredom, you will never be consistent. By deliberately seeking out and mastering these uneventful stretches, they train their minds to stay locked in when it matters most. That tactical boredom is the secret ingredient that allows them to keep going long after everyone else has faded away.